Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to Cursed Quill Productions. But with all the intro stuff out of the way, I bring you 3 stories of the scariest monsters in the dark. Do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And with all the intro out of the way, let's get into the show. Chapter 1: The Whispering Shadows. It was always midnight when the whispers began. I would lie in bed, heart racing, listening to the soft murmurs that seeped through my bedroom walls. At first I thought it was my imagination, a trick of the dark and the mind. I'd pull the covers over my head, convinced that if I couldn't see whatever was making those noises, it wouldn't see me either. But one night, curiosity got the better of me. I crept out of bed, the cold wooden floor sending shivers up my spine. The whispers were louder now, echoing through the hallway like a haunting melody. I followed the sound, each step fueled with a mix of dread and intrigue. The house was dark, and the air was thick with an unsettling stillness that seemed to press down on my chest. As I reached the living room, I paused in the doorway, my breath hitching in my voice. My breath caught in my throat. The flickering glow of streetlights outside cast long shadows across the floor. But it was the shapes in those shadows that caught my attention. They twisted and wrinkled, forming grotesque silhouettes that danced just beyond the reach of the light. I couldn't see them clearly, but I felt their presence, and settling weight in the air that made my skin crawl. The whispers grew louder, more urgent, and at that moment I realized they were calling my name, but not in a way that offered comfort. They spoke in a language I couldn't understand, but the tone was filled with despair. I felt an urge to step closer, my curiosity driving me to understand what they wanted, but something deep inside me warned me to turn back. Suddenly the shadows lunged forward, coiling around my legs like serpents. I stumbled back, panic surging through me. The whispers turned into a cacophony of voices, each one more desperate than the last. I turned to run, but the shadows surged forward, engulfing me in their cold, dark embrace. I felt them pulling me down, their grip growing tighter on my throat. I gasped for air, but it was the darkness that was swallowing me whole. In that moment, I realized the whispers weren't just warning me, they were a plea. "Help us," they cried. "We are trapped," yet I was powerless to help them. My vision blurred as the shadows closed in and consumed me. I felt my conscience slipping away. I was never found, but every night the whispers grow louder, echoing the empty house and the streets beside it, waiting for the next curious soul to join them in their endless, eternal lament. Chapter 2: The Thing Under My Bed. I always thought it was just a childhood fear, the idea that something lurked beneath my bed. As a kid, I would leap from a distance, fearing that something cold and clammy would reach out and grab my ankles. But as I grew older, the fear transformed into a gnawing suspicion that it wasn't just a figment of my imagination. I could feel it watching me, waiting for the lights to go out, waiting for the right moment to strike. One night, while everyone else was in the house asleep, I decided to confront my fear. Armed with nothing but a flashlight, I crouched down to look under the bed. What I saw froze my blood, chilling me to the bone, locking me in place with nothing but fear. Two glowing eyes stared back at me, filled with unfathomable hunger, as if it wanted to devour the whole world and everyone in it. The eyes weren't blinking, they glowed like fire, and they locked onto mine, and for a moment I was there, paralyzed, like a deer in headlights. As my heart raced, a low Growl rumbled from the darkness, vibrating through the floorboards. I wanted to scream to run, but my body wouldn't obey. The darkness seemed to pulse with life as I felt a chilling presence creep closer. "Why did you come here?" A raspy voice hissed, slithering from the shadows. I scampered back, my heart pounding in my ears. "I've been waiting for you to look," it continued, its voice dripping with malice. "And now that you have, I can finally come out." As if the words had summoned it, the creature had begun to emerge, tendrils of shadow coiling around its form like serpents, flickering like flames, and they danced in the unseen blackness that was the shadows. I could see its jagged teeth glistening in the dim light that glowed from its eyes, and a wave of dread washed over me. I felt a cold breath on my face as it leered over me. I bolted upright, stumbling back against my dresser. I turned to run at the door. Desperation clawed at me to run. "You can't escape me. I'm always here, waiting for you to let your guard down," it said as I ran towards my bedroom door, struggling with the handle as if it was stuck. In that moment, hearing those words, the reality of my situation hit me like a punch to the gut. This monster had been feeding on my fear, growing stronger every time I doubted myself. I had to break free. I had to reclaim myself. With a surge of adrenaline, I whipped around from the door that I was struggling to open. I grabbed my flashlight in one hand, igniting it with a flick of the switch, and pointed it at the creature, the beam cutting through the darkness of the room. It screeched. It was a piercing sound that echoed in my ears and left them ringing. It echoed through the small bedroom, constantly feedbacking off each other, making the sound echo in the space. I could hear its howling in the rage, but I was safer now, banished from the light of my flashlight. From that night on, I made sure to check under my bed every time I went to sleep. But I knew deep down that the creature was still there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment that I would dare look again, that we would lock eyes, and it would finally have its meal. Chapter 3: The Eyes in the Woods. Every summer, my friends and I camped at the edge of the woods, sharing ghost stories around the fire, the flickering flames illuminating our faces, casting long shadows that danced eerily in the darkness. But the stories took a sinister turn when we started seeing eyes watching us from the tree line at night. At first, we laughed it off, attributing it to our overactive imagination. "It's just deer," one of my friends joked, shrugging off our unease. But as the night grew darker and the air more oppressive, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was out there, hidden in the depths of the forest. One evening, emboldened by bravado and a few too many ghost stories, I decided to venture into the woods alone. "I'll prove it's nothing," I declared, trying to mask the tremor in my voice and the fear that would show in my face. My friends exchanged nervous glances, but I pushed forward, convinced that I could silence the whispers that begun to plague my thoughts. The deeper I went into the woods, the air changed. Thicker, heavier, almost suffocating, as if it wanted to choke the life out of me. The trees loomed overhead, their branches intertwining like skeletal fingers clawing at the sky. Suddenly the whispering began again, and I felt the weight of unseen eyes on my back. I turned, half expected to see my friends, but the forest was silent save for the rustling of leaves. The only light in the forest was the bright moon shining down through the trees. casting deep, long shadows across the forest floor. I pressed on, determined to find the source of the eyes that haunted my thoughts, but with each step the whispers grew louder, merging into an unsettling chorus of voices that seemed to call my name. Come closer, they urged, dripping with a sinister allure. I hesitated. A knot tightened in my stomach, but my curiosity pushed me forward. As I ventured deeper, the trees closed in around me, blocking it out the fading light of the moon. That's when I saw them, glowing eyes watching me from the shadows, multiplying by the seconds. First there was a single pair, then there was 4, 6, 8, 20, 50, 100, endless, all around me in these unseen shadows, and they seemed to gleam with malevolence, each one a promise of something dark and unfathomable. Panic surged through me as I stumbled back, my heart racing. The laughter echoed around me, a cruel cacophony of voices that promised to keep me forever. I turned to run, but the force twisted and turned to disorient me, and the eyes closed in, their eyes intensifying, glowing like the light of a campfire, and I felt a chilling breath against my neck. "Why are you afraid?" one of the voices hissed, with a mock sympathy. "You came here willingly, didn't you?" I felt the ground shift beneath me, roots snaking around my ankles, holding me in place. Desperation clawed at my throat. I fought against the restraints of the forest. "Let go!" I screamed, but my voice was swallowed by the darkness. The last thing I remember was the eyes closing in, their laughter merging into a single deafening roar. I never made it back to my friends, but every time they return to that spot, they can still hear my screams carried on the wind, a warning for the next brave soul to wander too deep into the woods. And that's it for tonight, folks. That was 3 stories of the scariest monsters that live in the dark. Do remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below which one was your favorite. And I'll see you guys next time.